Hello everyone, this is Katie with Homeschooling for His Kingdom. Welcome. Hanukkah is actually coming up pretty soon, and I wanted to jump on here and explain to you guys a little bit about Hanukkah and then explain how we celebrate it as a family. So I have a little history written up here to read to you about what happened, and then I'll explain briefly how we celebrate it as a family, how I incorporate it into the school day a little bit, but then also how we spend time with it in the evenings together. Okay, so here's the history of Hanukkah, briefly. Back in the 2nd century BC, there was an evil emperor from Syria who defiled the Jewish temple. His name was Antiochus. A Jewish family named Maccabees stood up against Antiochus' oppression and what he had done to their temple. With God's help, although very outnumbered, the family won miraculously. The Jews immediately began cleaning up the temple. They wanted to rededicate it to the Lord. To do this, though, they needed to light the menorah with pure olive oil. A menorah is a special candle holder that was used in the temple. And I have one here to show you. It is obviously not exactly like the one in the temple, but this is a menorah. I have it all full of candles. And I'll explain a little bit on how we fill those in a minute. Normally, the menorah would be lit daily. Although they only found a pure oil for 1 day's worth of lighting the menorah, they still chose to light it. And it kept burning miraculously for another 7 days. That's why Hanukkah is celebrated for 8 days. So they lit it for 1 day, but that oil's worth lasted another 7, totaling 8 days. Okay, so how and why would we celebrate this as a believing family? If you've been following me for a while, you know that we love the Lord very much. And you might be wondering, well, why would you celebrate it if you are considered Christians or you're a Gentile, family? There's a lot of good in the story, number one. And so what I usually do is I begin with, during the school day, I'll go ahead and read the story again to the children every year. A lot of times I will have like coloring pages ready for them, something like this, the Star of David, or like a basic menorah coloring page. I've got a word search as well for the older kids. Or I have found some crafts like this that I will have them put together. We did this earlier today. So that kind of keeps them busy while I'm reading the story, but it just reminds them of the miracle. Number one, they were super outnumbered, but because they were trying to be faithful to the Lord, getting the temple back, he honored that and their bravery and miraculously allowed them to win. That's the first miracle. And then, of course, the next miracle was that he allowed the oil to last the 8 days. And I believe at the end of the 8 days, they had enough pure oil to continue it. They found enough oil or were able to make enough oil by then. So there's miracles in the story, and I like to always highlight how God did miracles back then and how he's still doing miracles today in our lives. But also, in the book of Matthew, it's a great reminder how the oil is a picture of the Holy Spirit. And there's a story in Matthew 25, 1 through 13, talking about the unwise virgins versus the wise virgins. And how it's so important for them to keep their lamps burning until the Lord comes back, right? As the Holy Spirit leads us through our day, guiding us in truth and reminding us of what Jesus said. If we love him, we'll obey him. And this will allow our lights to shine brightly for him. And I'm speaking to myself as well. But I just like to remind the kids of that. The Holy Spirit is the oil in the Old Testament and the New Testament and still today, right? And so if we spend time with him, reading his word, praying with him, growing our relationship with him, then our lights will never go out. And so I like to use that as a picture with them. But another thing we like to do is actually physically light the candles with them. So that's where this menorah will come into play. So what we do is, so you can see that there's 8 lower candles and 1 high candle. And so what it is the 8 candles represent the 8 nights of Hanukkah. This is called the Shamash candle. And so usually what will happen is on the first night, you won't have any candles in here except for this one. Shamash means helper. Candle or helper, I think. And so you'll just light this first one, and then on the first night you'll just have the 1 candle here, and so you'll light that one. And on the second night you put 2 new candles and you'll light 2 candles, and then by the end of Hanukkah you should have all 8 candles lit, and every night you just put this little helper candle back in the top. And you usually let them burn down. They burn down in about a half an hour to an hour. And then you start with all fresh candles the next night. Let me show you these. I got these a while ago, but you can usually buy them in boxes as a set, you know, for all, so that you have enough to last all week if you're able to do every single night. But that's a picture for them as well. Like as they're holding the candles, we're talking about it. And if the kids are old enough, I like to allow them to be the ones to light the candles. And we usually gather around and say a prayer together, Thanksgiving or whatever the Lord leads us to pray. But I just feel like when you are reminding them of what God did, showing them how it applies today, and then touching it and feeling it kind of and seeing it, it's kind of getting it from all angles. And so it really drives it home on how important our relationship is with the Lord. So anyway, those are the basics of what we do. Sometimes we can also, or we have done like fried foods. Some families do that often during Hanukkah. A lot of times latkes are made, which are potato pancakes, or probably pronouncing it wrong, but sufganiyot, which is jelly donuts. So you can do that too. And that's just a picture of the oil. Again, foods fried in oil or made with oil to represent the oil that burned for 8 nights. And again, this isn't considered like a major feast of the Lord, but we do see that Jesus was in Jerusalem in the temple during the Feast of Dedication in the book of John. So this is from John 10:22 through 23, and it says, "Now it was the Feast of Dedication in Jerusalem, and it was winter, and Jesus walked in the temple and Solomon's porch." So the Feast of Dedication is Hanukkah, or the Feast of Lights. So anyways, if you feel led to celebrate this year with us, I hope these ideas have inspired you. I do have some coloring pages and activity pages out on the website, along with a little summary of the story, if you'd like to download that and use that. But anyways, I hope this blesses you guys. I hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you later. Happy Hanukkah.